Hey, listeners, thanks for tuning into the podcast. I just want to take a moment to mention the podcast sponsor, retrogamestore.com.au. Head over there for all your Game Boy refurbish and repair needs. Screens, shells, buttons, all the bits and pieces. And there's a complete custom build made to order service as well. Also, plenty more retro gaming goodness like video cables, display stand and power supplies, controls, etc. And you can add the code PixelPie at checkout to get 10% off your order. Also, take a moment to say if you enjoyed this episode and haven't already, give it a subscribe or follow and a review where you can. And maybe you want to recommend the Pixel Pie podcast to anyone you know that would enjoy it. That'd be really appreciated. So thanks for listening, and now let's get on with the show.
I'm Idlehandmodding, and you're listening to the Pixel Pie podcast.
Hello, Rob. How are you doing, mate?
I'm very good. How are you?
I am fine on this. It's a Sunday morning for me, and it's a Saturday evening for you. And I was just commenting. You're in
Saturday evening.
You're in Montreal, and behind you the sun is still very high, and you're telling me it's like 8 p.m.
Yeah, it's 8:20 right now, and we still have some pretty good sun right now.
Good stuff. And you're wearing a t-shirt. I just assume that everybody in Canada is wearing like big woolly jackets like all the time.
No, even in the summer, you see people like half dressed, maybe wearing a sweater.
Oh, that's nice. I'm glad you guys get some relief from the like 6 feet of snow and minus 40 degrees and all that craziness.
Yeah, today it's a little bit on the cooler side, but it's still beautiful. Like I'm out in a jean and a t-shirt, I'm more than comfortable.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, Rob. So on Instagram, you're Idlehandmodding.
That's me.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm gonna open up with this. This statement is from your Instagram, and it says, "Montreal-based pineapple enthusiast."
Yes.
Let's start there. That's pretty interesting. And we will get into Game Boys. There's no doubt about that. But that intrigued me.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like pineapples are they're a great fruit. They're the only fruit that eats you back. Like you eat it and it starts digesting you. So I mean,
oh really?
Yeah, the bromelain in it actually. If you eat too much of it, you're going to start feeling sick and stuff. And a lot of cosmetic products actually have bromelain in it, like those deep cleansing masks and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, they have bromelain in that, which I never knew. A girl I was dating used to do all that esthetician stuff, and she was telling me that. I'm like, man, it's cool, right?
So if you ever stuck on a tropical island, your plane crashes and there's nothing but pineapples, you could be in trouble.
I would imagine so. I mean, I feel kind of sick if I eat too many of them, but I just love how they look.
They are delicious, and they do have this kind of like a almost, because a fresh pineapple where you get it and you cuddle the peel off and you slice it up. It's super, just one of those. Often these days we're just saturated with the fake foods and everything's processed and all that sort of stuff. And pineapple's one of those things. It's just fresh every time.
Yeah.
That's
it.
So you love pineapples. Yeah, go on.
I do. And speaking of that, the pineapple enthusiast wasn't always in my bio. But then during I did like an Ask Me Anything thing,
right?
And somebody asked me like, "Oh, like do you have a favorite fruit?" And I was like, "Yes, like this, the Lord and Savior pineapple." And then they messaged me back, like, "Are you serious? Are you in some like cult where you guys believe in pineapples?" And I'm like, "No, of course not." But so it just became a bit of a joke, and here it is.
Well, looking at your Game Boy designs and the way you do it, there's this. I hate to ever use the word random because everything is intent. The result may appear random, but there's a very sort of fruit salad to what you do, and do you know what I mean? Like I mean that in a totally positive, encouraging way. But and I do really. The more I look at the community, and the more I look at some of the shells and the design, and it's you really start to see the nuances and the differences between each people's, because when you first sort of jump in and you're like, wow, everybody's just kind of like throwing paint around or someone's marbling or this, but you really do start to see the differences and you start to see regular sort of streaks of intent. And maybe sort of we'll just jump straight into, I guess, your path and how you got into painting and modding shells and Game Boys, and yeah, what does it do for you? But we'll start with how you got there.
How I got there. Well, a few years back, I wanted to replay some of my old Pokemon games. And if you've ever, you're actually just talking to Pixel Fix about this. You know, like, do you ever look back and see these old Game Boys, and you're just like, man, like those screens are shit.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's basically what I did. I went to play it, and I was like, man, these screens, you know.
Yeah.
So I started looking into modding, and I just kind of let it sit for a while, and I didn't come back to it until during the pandemic. And I work as a registered nurse, so that
Right.
was a pretty busy time for me, and I just really needed some kind of, you know, some kind of
Something else.
outlet, something fun, you know.
Something the opposite to dealing with constant kind of, I guess, trauma and drama and sickness.
Basically, yeah. And I used to actually be in art school for about 5.5 years in various different programs until I just dropped that and went into nursing.
Yeah.
So complete career 180.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know, it was just a cool little thing to get into. And yeah, so that's basically how I got into modding. It was basically just a pastime, and then you know, the more I looked into it, I realized that there was actually this whole big community, a lot of which was, you know, it gained a lot of new members in the last year and a bit.
Yeah.
You know, had that kind of baby boom.
Yeah.
And yeah, here I am a
Yeah.
year later.
Yeah, I'm just looking at your post now, which is your first personal build, which was what was this one of your original DMG, and you did like a white shell and IPS and all the good stuff, and seeing it all kind of laid out there, new lens, new buttons, new rubbers. Pardon me, like it's yeah. I mean, that's where a lot of people start, and it's a really great way to start. You're keeping the original screen and board intact. You know, put it in a bag and label it up, and nothing really gets damaged. The beauty of those ones, yeah. So that was the beginning for you as far as modding.
Yeah, well, that was the first build I ever got into. Getting into all this, the original plan was to make a Game Boy Advance, so that I could play the Game Boy Advance titles and such. But I ended up starting with the DMG, oddly enough, which is funny because that's my most recent addition to the collection.
Right.
I never had one as a kid. My first one was actually a Game Boy Color, Game Boy Pocket. Sorry, the neon green one you see a little further up on my page.
Yep.
But I started with the DMG. I just really fell in love with that console.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, as a kid, like the Game Boy Colors, Game Boy Pockets, they were fine with my little baby hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now as an adult, it's a little cramped, so I'm really enjoying the DMGs.
Yeah, the Pocket is my favorite, but I was also yesterday just playing some link cable Tetris with Mike from the Played Up podcast, and we were both using the Pockets, the Q5 Pockets I built. Well, I bought one and then built one.
Okay, nice.
And it was just that little bit, like I was explaining to him how when I push down like a dead drop in OG Tetris, so many times I'll also push to the right, and it's because my big sausage finger thumb, and I have to actually kind of like really open my hands up to get my thumb sort of more central over the D-pad. I find it too with the NES. I've got to actually hold my hand out of it because these are designed for like 12-year-old kids.
Well,
perfect.
Exactly, right?
I need a NES controller. It's just that like all slightly larger. Go, or I could 3D print a cap on the end and just sort of extend it. Either way, the DMG does have a more adult feel, and I think that reflects on. I think the original design was like kind of for business people sitting on the train because adults didn't play with toys back then in Japan, and so the DMG was kind of like a calculator looking thing that you could kind of push aside from your boss.
I think it was for the DMG actually. I remember seeing somewhere that there was a sort of business app, not an app, but a game that was meant as like a business tool almost.
I've seen like a typewriter and everything that later that connected into it. But yeah, I mean Yoko was always about this is what we're going to do. You want something you can play on the train, and that's why I think the early screens kind of worked because it was very personal. You sort of just kept it in your space. Yeah. Okay, so then you kind of once you've sort of got shells and you start to play with buttons and things, when did you decide? I'm looking at your feed here, and the first sort of looks like painted shell was the green, and I think it's a gold animal print.
It's kind of a tiger stripe sort of.
Yeah. I looked at that. You and I have been talking about, me hitting you up for a shell and the things we were talking about. I was like, oh, That's down that road, isn't it? Of what you and I were discussing, the kind of jungly predator sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So how'd you go with that one?
Sorry?
How did you get on with that one? Was that masked or?
What do you mean was it masked? Like it's like I made a stencil for it.
Yeah, correct.
That's what you mean.
That's
Yeah.
what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how I did it. The idea, I've always kind of liked animal print, and at the time I was watching Tiger King.
Yeah, and so just for those, it is like a tiger sort of zebra striping. It's what you started with a clear sort of lime green shell, and then sort of went from there.
Yeah, so that one I had to do externally. I wanted to paint it internally.
Yep.
But there's just too many structures to kind of maneuver around that to get a proper proper pattern going.
For a stencil, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But then after that, for the most part, I've tried to do most of my painting internally, like as much as possible.
And it looks amazing, the internal stuff, doesn't it? I've sort of had this discussion with you and many others about, would say, like, for example, up further up, there's a couple of pockets and you use a clear pocket and then you paint even just a straight color on the inside. And you leave all this the detail of the structure behind the D-pad, and it's almost like that like cartoon cell shading with the detail.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like a textbook manual where here is the car, here is the carburetor, and here is every line that shows the carburetor. So yeah, maybe take us through. There's also stuff in here on Switch Joycons, but let's just look at the Game Boy stuff for a while, and I guess your technique and prep and as much as you want to give away, and your favorite paints, etc.
Well, I mean, I mainly use spray paints for all of this. I use the Sabotage brand,
right,
which is sold quite readily and available where I am.
Yeah.
You also mentioned that before I wanted to come back to this, where you're saying that I have kind of a fruit salad approach where everything is different. That I was thinking of that earlier today, actually, that you can't really look at my work and say, okay, that's an Idlehandmodding piece. Like there isn't this overarching style, like with Next Stop Please Kelly, for example, that like she very much has like the marbling niche.
Yeah.
But with my work, like I'll try one thing, I'll like it, and it works or it doesn't work. Know that I'm personally happy with the result, and then I just want to try something new. For me, I'd rather not stay in the same niche and kind of continue that trend. Not to say that there's anything wrong with it, but just for myself personally, I'm not stimulated by doing that. I want to try something new. I want to try a new technique. Which is kind of, which is what I've been trying to do for this summer. I have a whole list of builds, and I'm trying to make them all as different as I can.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I think and I 100% agree. Like you look through, there's some Joy-Cons that kind of sort of fading and blending from one color to another as you move down, and there's some sort of big fat pinstripe looking DMGs and stuff. But I think some of you are kind of like I guess the sort of splatter. There's a real kind of like, I think that's sort of what I meant by the fruit salad, especially sort of the green one, that green GBC. It's like all I see is like, I don't know, mango and kiwi fruit. It looks so delicious. Yeah. So with when did the splatter stuff come in, and how does the ones you've done, and how does that, I'm intrigued as to how you get the different, do you do sort of layers from the inside? How does that work?
Basically, yeah. Like it's being that it's internal, it is kind of a reverse process. Like I'll start with one color, splatter it, take another color, splatter some more until I'm content with it. And then after that, I'll just spray one solid color over to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, it's really cool. Really, really cool.
Yeah.
And are you the sort that do you sort of get the clear shells and polish them up on the inside, or do you find that works pretty well?
No, I've never actually cleaned up the shells. Like I know that a few people have gone for that kind of glass finish, but I've never actually taken that route. I know some people do use floor polish stuff, and I've always been kind of hesitant because I don't know how that'll react with the paints. Like if I will be able to viably paint the shell afterwards.
Yeah, that's fair.
And for the most part, like if you see a clear shell, you see that there is kind of a haze to it. Like it isn't like a glass finish, right?
Yeah.
But majority, I mean, if you look at all my stuff, you don't see that kind of fog anymore. The colors still show through without any issue.
Yeah, and so I guess that's the quality of the plastic used, the clarity of once it's been poured. Everything has it. Glass has an opacity to it, and that's something everybody at the moment's going nuts over these like mirror clear shells, out of the bag. Mm.
Mhm.
There's a lot of Joy-Con stuff in here. You're obviously a Switch owner slash enthusiast.
Yeah.
Did the Joy-Cons differ from any other shell as to the work you've got to put into them?
Um, Not the shell itself. I mean, the Joy-Cons are obviously the most recent iteration in the Nintendo line.
Mm.
So technology changes, right? Like if you open up a Joy-Con versus a DMG, it's like apples and oranges. You
Yeah,
get
it's
all
the
these,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
It would. I've never opened up a cell phone, but I feel like it looks probably something similar to that. With all
yeah,
the very small, very technical pieces.
yeah.
But I love working with Joy-Cons. They're kind of a pain in the butt, and I know when I started doing it, I don't think many other people were into it, and they're like, "What the hell? Like how was it?" And I'm like, "It was fine. I love it, but just
Mm,
be careful. Like
yeah,
it's so much easier to irrevocably damage the boards inside compared to like a DMG.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think it's also sort of it works well because the actual kind of the the screen part of the Switch is fairly just like there's not a lot of color to it. It's effectively just a bezel and a screen and a back.
Mhm.
So because the Joy Cons kind of go just snap on the side, then you still get that
Exactly.
same result of this is kind of it as far as stimulation from color and contrast and stuff goes. You're not having to do like a bezel or a lens or any of that sort of stuff. So
Mhm.
you still get that freedom.
And
Yeah.
what's cool about that as well too is that I mean, with the Switch itself, like the actual console with the screen, you can still switch the backplate, which you see in one of my photos. But
Oh, is that what that is?
eh,
That kind of grey one up there. Yeah.
yeah, the white and gold one,
Yes. Yeah.
like you have the backplate, and then you also have the matching Joy-Cons.
Right. I'm
But
with you.
something cool is that even if you don't switch the backplate, you can just keep popping on and off Joy-Cons and mix and match different colors. So
Yeah.
it's not like a Game Boy where once you mod it and reshell it, not that you're stuck with it because I mean you could always undo it and put a new one.
Yeah.
But on the fly, you can just say, hey, you know what? Today I want the purple Joy-Cons, and then tomorrow you want the gold ones,
Yeah.
or
Cool.
one of each. So
Yeah. That's
that's
cool.
something that's cool about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you and I were talking earlier. This is a total like off in a sort of different direction, but it just kind of got my attention. Was
Mhm.
the game Dedius, which is
Yeah.
a recent game put out by Spaceball Interactive, and I was looking before on Instagram iz.ma, and I was
Yeah.
with a couple of guys yesterday. We caught up at a local library to actually play some games together. Took in the Mega Drive and the SNES with some EverDrives, and we had a really great time. And Tristan, Custom Handhelds, had Dedius there, and he was like, at the beginning, he kind of didn't want to talk to us because he was like, "I'm playing this. This is just so good
Yeah.
on his SP." Yeah, for those of us that aren't aware, because I'm not really aware, apart from what just Tristan was saying yesterday, what is this all about? Didios or Dedius? It's
Yeah.
phonetically.
I don't even know how to describe the story. It's something that I saw a while back, before he released a hard copy version of it, and it's one of the reasons why I ended up getting. I believe I have an Easy Flash Junior. Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I got a flash card so that I could download the game, play it, because at the time he was available free online or else by donation, kind of. So I
Yeah.
threw some money his way and got it. Um, it's awesome. I mean, honestly, this is the first game, like it has that same Pokemon era feel to it, and I haven't played any games in a while that got me that excited about a handheld game. Otherwise,
Right.
it's all home consoles, right?
Yeah, switchy
So this
stuff or
is
whatever. Yeah.
yeah, and it has a much darker vibe than a lot of other handheld games. It's kind of like you
Mm,
wake up and you're playing as a kid and he has this weird vision and it's like, oh, like the world's ending in a few days.
mm.
Okay, what do I do? And you can basically just rush to the ending and just go to sleep 3 times consecutively and the game ends. Like there's multiple different endings to the game, or else
Yeah.
based on how much. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Tristan was saying yesterday,
Yeah.
he's like, Tristan, like, oh, I've had 7 different endings. I was like, what is this voodoo that he's talking about?
Right. I want to say, if I'm remembering correctly, he said there was
11.
something like 11, eh?
Yeah, I'm just looking
So
at the webpage now, which I would encourage everybody to go to. Just, I want you to get back into your sort of take on it, but it says here, you just look up Didius by Isma ROM, and you can download
yeah.
and it says name your price. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's one of those situations where obviously it can be free, but if you want to support, I spoke to Anthony Nara Makes Games about making games, and nothing is free. Let's be fair, and people's time is the most valuable resource. So
For sure.
yeah, it's getting nothing but positive responses from the people I'm speaking to, yourself and Tristan. So yeah, I would
Yeah.
encourage people to go check it out and
Yeah, and
throw a few
definitely
bucks their way.
oh, 100%. Like the
Yeah,
he's such a cool guy. I actually made a Game Boy Color for him. If you scroll up, it's
yeah,
the
nice.
black and green one. And no, super cool guy. It's an amazing game. You can definitely see all the time and work and love and passion that went into it.
It's legit.
So it's yeah, no, it definitely is. I'm really excited to see what he comes up with next.
And I mean, it's really nice when you see like hard copy versions of games come out. Where you get the box and you pay the decent money for people's time, and it's only when you support these people.
Yeah.
So what is the sort of just? I don't want to dwell on this too much, but I'm interested. Like, what's the general? Can you kind of, if you were making a trailer for this game, purely audio, what's the general gist of the game to get us interested?
I
Like I said, 966, and you put on your bowler hat, or
like what time period is this set in, you mean?
yeah, or just generally, like what's the go? Because I'm intrigued.
Um, I don't even know how to describe it. Like I said, you're playing as a kid and you have this weird kind of vision that the world's gonna end, and then
Right.
you're left with that. And you're in this weird town and people are kind of you talk to people about it and the adults don't really seem to know what's going on, but the kids are kind of like, oh, like something weird's going on.
All
It
right.
almost like I've never seen Stranger Things, but I feel like it almost has that kind of
Right.
idea to it, that it has these like kids being the heroes in this weird kind of monster Lovecraftian sort of world.
Oh, bitch. And
So
it has a bit of like mother sort of to it, if you ever played any of that.
I haven't, but
It's
I
weird
know
as
a little bit
heck.
about it. Exactly, like this is a really weird game.
That's
Like,
great.
and I mean that in the most loving kind of way
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
love weird games.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Mother is just really weird. Like it just instantly throws you in, and you're kind of like, I can't remember, you're like fighting a lamp or something. And there's like a girl running around in dolls and stuff, and you're sort of like, I don't know what's going on. I think it's a lot of it's lost in translation. I don't know, but it's obviously got a history. But yeah, anything that makes you feel weird and makes you want to kind of know what the heck's going on, that's a win, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, great.
But definitely agree with that.
All right, we're
Like,
definitely gonna encourage people to go and have a look at that one.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, sorry, that's a sidetrack, but I just noticed it. But speaking of carts, like I think one of your most recent posts is some marbling of a logo cart. Like that's amazing, dude. Kelly does it, but everybody does it when they want to, and it looks freaking rad. Do you want to take us through the marbling
Thank
of
you.
that cart?
Thank you. Sorry, just 1 second.
Yeah, you're right.
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
Yes. Um, so yeah, the marbling of that. Like with the Joy-Cons and the Switch, the white and gold ones, I really enjoyed the aesthetic that I went with that, and it's definitely a very different kind of marbling than what Kelly and other people go for, because I
Yeah,
use a very different process than she does.
right.
Um, and I just really like I really like the feel that I got with the gold and white, but those aren't really not really my colors.
Yeah,
I don't wear any gold jewelry. I love the color, but not for me.
yeah.
And I went with, since my page is already all black and white, I thought that black and silver would actually be really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I've been meaning to do something. That's my EverDrive, uh, or sorry, Easy Flash.
Yeah.
And I've been wanting to do something with it forever, and finally put on this label that Trey made for me. And yeah, so I
So,
just went with that.
so you still use it as an easy flash, and you've just got your logo ROM on it.
Yeah, basically, I have my logo ROM, Didios, and that's it. Honestly, I only have two
Oh,
things on
really?
there.
Oh man,
Yeah,
my easy flashes are just like chockers. Like obviously, I don't just put everything, but yeah. And there's this like little sort of library of if ever I'm listening to a podcast, I'm like, oh, that game. Oh, that's probably on my. Yeah, it is. Oh yeah, that's a yes or a no sort of thing. Like, oh man, my easy flashes, I live with them. They are amazing. Hmm.
yeah, yeah. I've been
So
meaning to get mine. I've been meaning to get mine a little bit more loaded up, but I'm honestly just terrible with computers.
mm,
So this is something a project for a little bit down the line. And I mean, honestly, I don't even have that much time to game. at the moment.
Right.
With work, I mean, I work full time, and that takes up a lot of my time, and especially now during the summer that it's painting season for me, because in the winter I just can't paint.
Right.
I painted my parents' garden shed. So in the winter, when you have like 3-4 feet climbing into that, as well too with spray paints, there's a bit of issue in both. But point being is that right now for me, painting is basically like my second job. On the weekend, I'll be at my parents' house for 7-8 hours at a time, getting the
Right.
shells ready, like doing all the prep work to get them painted, all the taping and stuff.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
spend a few hours taping, spray painting.
Yep.
So it's a bit of a long process.
So are you doing mostly for yourself, or you still, because I don't know how much you want to go into, but at some point you had a bit of an
Yeah, the
issue with,
customs issue.
yeah, the customs issue. So I think it's sort of like, I think at the time it was a bit of a raw situation. You maybe now you've had time to kind of contemplate it, but I guess maybe just explain to a few people, because like it could happen. A lot of people say, oh, we don't want to make another Game Boy because then Nintendo will give a shit. But maybe just for those that are out there might bump into the same situation, just take us briefly through what happened, and at the end of it, kind of how it sort of affected your approach. And yeah, let's just maybe warn other people of just be prepared in case this show comes to your town.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I was sending a Game Boy Color shell to someone in the US, and because on the Game Boy Color shells, or on a lot of shells actually, there's an embossed Nintendo logo.
Mm-hmm.
So because I was shipping something with Nintendo branding and it was clearly a counterfeit, they took issue with that. Even though I was the one to make it, I was
Yeah,
distributing it. So then
yeah,
they basically sent me a letter telling me that if I didn't have proof that I I had consent from Nintendo to be shipping this,
mm,
um, that I would have to give it up or take legal action or whatnot. So I basically abandoned the shell, which was fine.
mm.
It's kind of I would have liked to have kept it, but
Yeah. I think they
giving
could
up
have at least sent it back to you or something.
yeah, but I mean, losing $20 and some postage is not really the end of the world.
Yeah,
And I'm sure that a lot of other companies have been having issues with this because now so many companies are making unbranded shells. You could get the DMG shells that don't have the little screen print of the Nintendo Entertainment System.
right.
Uh, Now they have the Pocket shells, Game Boy Advance shells. The SP never had the branding on it; it was always a sticker. But a lot of companies they just completely removed the branding.
Mm-hmm.
The only one I actually haven't seen with the non-branded version is the Game Boy Color. So that should actually be the workaround for me. But before before I was open to commissions and stuff like that, and I did a few for people I know locally. Like a few of the Joycons, or most of the Joycons actually were commissions. One of the watermelon Game Boy Color, that was a commission for my cousin who does all the artwork on my page,
Yep.
like all my logos and story headers. But now, I mean, honestly, like a year later, I've just being in this community, I've made so many great friends and so many
Mm,
different connections and networking and
mm,
stuff.
mm,
Like I'm just doing it for fun at this point. Like I
mm.
just, end of the day, I come home, I'm tired, whatever. I just relax by painting. So that's kind of where I'm at with it now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess it's. I know when it first sort of I became aware of kind of what had occurred, and it just confused me. I just thought, well, yeah. I mean, I guess if it was a legitimate Nintendo product and there was some sort of like, yes, it's Nintendo, and I've painted it, and I was like,
Mm,
so what? You can't have a pair of, like, who's to say if I have a pair of Nikes that I bought
hmm
and
Right,
I drew smiley faces all over them and say, I want to send them to you, Rob, and I sent them to
right.
you, like, whether those Nikes were legit or not, who is someone else to judge whether I can't gift you? And I guess for me, I was just like, how did they kind of just say, nope, not sending that? That's not going to happen. Even though, and like at the end of the day, they'd have to question whether you were able to make, no offense, something of such a high quality, like you personally,
hmm
So yeah, it just seems like a really bizarre criteria. They could kind of narrow it down and like, there's other companies doing it. Do you think it was just like your local post office, or is there someone in there that's like the son of a Nintendo executive? I just find it weird how they just sort of intercepted your one
No,
shell.
well, I mean, there is. Well, because I had it listed on the manifest as a Game Boy shell
Right.
for one thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is definitely coming from Nintendo. It's not just shit luck that someone decided, oh, this guy's distributing. Like it's,
Mm.
you know, but where the issue comes, like you were saying, if you just bought, Nike's air quoting again,
Yeah. Yeah.
they, it's the fact that it's distributing something with their branding on it. So that's where their issue lies in all of this. It's not,
Right. Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I guess it could also be because this, someone in the postal system or the shipping, and I don't want to dwell on this too much, but I guess someone in the postal shipping system, is physically maybe even randomly, but checking specific shipping notices and then going, oh, and if they're a real stickler for that kind of stuff, then I guess they're like, no, this is what I love doing. Love shutting people down. I love stopping this. This is kind of my
Yeah,
thing.
but I mean, at the same time, it is their job, right? Like if,
Yeah, yeah. Look, I'm not negative. I'm just sort of trying to
you know,
work out the probability of someone else kind of getting, if it's because I don't amongst the community of the people we know that send shells left, right, and center to all parts of the globe. As an
right.
individual, and even like collectively as larger companies, I've just never heard of it, and I'm just a
Yeah, well,
bit
it's
baffled.
probably a good thing that we are hearing about it though, so that there is some awareness brought to the issue so that people can be careful moving forward and that we can continue modding as a community.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess.
That we don't
Yeah.
just get blacklisted and shut down because of, you know,
Mm.
poor decision making.
I can remember I've got a whole bunch of the 8-bit Bluetooth controllers, and there's a SNES version, and I've got the Mega Drive version. And the SNES version used to come with the colored buttons, very much like the original SNES controller. And all of a sudden, they were unavailable. And
Right.
8-bit had received, and this is a slightly different topic, but I guess it's like the power of Nintendo to kind of just to reach out like Darth Vader and just sort of do the whole chokehold from the other side of the galaxy, and they're kind of like all of a sudden those weren't available in those particular colors. They changed all the buttons to a kind of maroon, and it became quite apparent that Nintendo had said you need to stop making them in that color scheme, and it was within 8 to 10 weeks the version looked identical for the Switch was available, made by Nintendo.
Okay.
So they really had that ability just to go and stop. I mean, I've seen games that have been made. I think there's a Samus Returns. It's the return of Samus. It's like a ASMR or whatever 2 or something. And they made the game right up to the point where it was pretty releasable. And then Nintendo went, stop, cease and desist.
Right.
And you're like, we've been doing this for like 3 years. You could have done this like a year ago and said, you guys are going to get a kick in the ass if you keep doing this.
Right.
And that's just really unfortunate. I just think that sort of hurts sometimes when people put their just love and time into it and then turn
For
around.
sure.
Yeah. So feel
But I
free,
mean, at
man.
the same time, I mean, there is a certain, like we were talking the other day about appropriating other people's content and stuff, right? Like at the same time, like if people were making Pixel Pie stuff without your consent and distributing it at the same time, like if they started selling Pixel Pie T-shirts, you'd be like, "What the hell, man? Like this is my thing."
Yeah.
Like there are the people at Nintendo that put all their
Absolutely.
time in,
Yeah.
put their time into developing these things into the games and whatnot. So,
Absolutely.
I'm not going to debate the right or wrong of it, but I mean, I understand it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And I think that
So,
was the point of me kind of like bringing this up, was that from our side, there is the, hey man, this shit's like 30 years old. What's the deal?
for sure.
Someone else made the shell. I'm just kind of making it look rad. But then there is that side of, there is a legality to everything we do, and we're just kind of under the radar and just enjoying it. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's sometimes it's a bit of a, you'd like to see the community grow, but that's often when things start to go a bit squirrely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like it starts to bring more attention to it.
Yeah. I think we're pretty safe at the moment. That's fine.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on from that.
Yeah.
Other stuff you collect. Are you a collector? Well, let's focus back on the Game Boys. Do you collect Game Boys, or are you one of these people that kind of like can't love them, has to move them on?
I mean, collecting, yeah, to a degree. I mean, I have pretty much one of each of the Game Boys.
Yep.
That I do plan on modding eventually and making my whole personal collection, which I've been very slow about. I finally have a Game Boy in color, and that's mainly because Mike, the Visual Pixel, he sent me some of his custom molded buttons, and that I was like, okay, like I have to do something with these. Mike sent them, I got to use them, so that's what got me to make the green and orange Game Boy Color.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I've been really sleeping on making my own
You've been
custom
busy,
builds.
dude. There's a pandemic on.
Oh, I've been busy, but I mean, at the same time, I have, I'll see people post videos or whatever, and they're like, "Ultimate Game Boy Advance," and I'm like, man, it's like, where's the audio mod? Where's the battery mod? Like,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you change the screen, and like it looks amazing, but you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
like for me, my my collection, it has to have literally everything. Like you have to be able to like order off of Amazon with your Game Boy. For me.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
like it has to be that,
yeah,
be
yeah,
like that. So as well too with the community and how fast it's growing and how fast new innovations are coming out. It's kind of weird, like you start to plan a project and then they kind of announce that the next big thing is coming. Like
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
next screen is in development or the audio amp or whatever, right? So then you're always kind of waiting for the next one.
yeah, yeah. I could,
But to
yeah,
back to your question, I mean, I wouldn't collect. I don't collect to the level of some people. I mean, I want one of each console just to have them and mod them basically.
mm-hmm.
I used to be big into collecting like the special editions of video games and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But at a certain point, you get so many physical copies of things, and then you just don't really know what to do with them.
mm,
You know.
yeah. You do,
So
you do have a thing. I don't know if you still have them, but you do have a significant, is it Zelda specific amiibo collection?
yeah, and that I got into because I've always been a Zelda fan.
That's
That's one
really
of the
cool.
first. Yeah, like Pokemon and Zelda are probably my two first franchises I really got into as far as video games go.
Mm,
And when Breath of the Wild came out, they had the amiibo functionality that you basically just pop on an amiibo and you get all kinds of in-game rewards.
yeah,
And I was late to the game on that. Like the amiibos had already been out at least a year, so I was going on eBay and finding all these
uh,
places in Japan.
yeah, yeah,
These people selling amiibos, and luckily the foreign amiibos work. Like they're not region locked
yeah.
apparently.
Right. Okay, that's cool.
So I really lucked out. I mean, all the packaging is in Japanese, but the
That's pretty
amiibos look the
cool,
same.
though. That's cool.
Yeah.
So how many of the Zelda specific amiibo do you have?
I have all of them.
Approximately. Are we talking like 20, 30?
uh, I'm just looking at them now from here. I'd say there's probably 20 to 30 in there, and I have
Yeah.
two Metroid amiibos thrown in for good measure.
Yeah, I've been looking at Metroid amiibos recently myself, and they're not cheap.
No.
Even out of the box, like even unboxed, they're sort of that sort of $30 mark in Australia. And it's
Yeah.
like, whoa, I just want a nice cool Samus in the full suit to stand there and look at.
Right.
So, but I may end up just picking one up. I could have got one the other day, but she wouldn't ship. I had to drive like an hour, and I'm like, it becomes a $40 amiibo all of a sudden. It's just for petrol and stuff. But yeah, amiibos are a wacky thing. My daughter got one at the market the other day. I don't have it. It's a Donkey Kong one, like the Switch series. You might
Oh,
go see,
nice.
and it's really cool. It's still in the box and stuff, and
That's
it's really cool. We have a lot of Skylanders. My daughter is 9, and we've played a bunch of.
nice.
And Skylanders is fun, like the concept of switching out and playing and
Nice.
stuff. We really enjoy that. And Skylanders are everywhere. You go to car boot sales and that. People's got buckets of them.
Nice.
Where
I don't remember the name of the game, surprisingly enough, but the Lego equivalency of Skylanders when the Lego movie came out, they had that Lego game you could get where you had like a dock and you built a little portal around it. Then you had
right?
the figures on the base, and you just kind of pop them in, and then you get a character in game.
Yeah, yeah,
It was basically like the Lego equivalency of Skylanders.
yeah, yeah.
So I was into that mainly because I've always been a Lego fan since the time I was like 3 years old.
Right. Do you still get into
So
Lego?
once in a way, not as much as I used to. I still have
Yeah. What was the last
like
Lego you bought?
it was the Mandalorian brickheads.
Ah, right. Yes. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, those sets where you actually just build a little character and they stand maybe like 3, 4 inches tall.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
this one was of the Mandalorian and the child. It was
yeah,
like a combo set. So that's probably the last one I got.
yeah, yeah. The Mando's so good. Can't wait for it to come back.
Yeah.
Mm.
Are they actually making a third season?
Oh,
Or did
without
they
I don't know, with the whole Boba Fett, the Book of Fett, and things like
exactly,
that.
right?
It's just I work with a couple of guys that are sort of Marvel fans and Star Wars fans, and they're always so far ahead of a curve because they spend their life on Reddit and they just everything like this guy had the end of season 2, which for those that haven't seen it, like
Right.
I kind of cried. I mean, I grew up
Right.
on that
It was
premise
a
and everything. Like
right.
I literally I cried the first time because I watched it without my daughter, and she's been come along for the ride a bit with Star Warsy stuff. And I watched the second time and I cried more, and it just filled this
Right.
void in my life. Um, and that was spoiled for him because of Reddit.
Okay, it's true, eh?
And I'm, dude, what are you doing there? Like, in his every show, whether it be The Watchmen or anything like that, he's always off on these like theory lines in all different directions. I'm like, yeah, but then it kind of fogs the reality of the actual story once it's an experience for you. So I don't do any of that. I even avoid trailer kind of Easter egg if I can help it, just to kind of dive into something and just go, you know what, I'm old enough to know this. The Marvel stuff gets a bit tricky because they're bringing all these characters in from all sorts of multiverses, and I don't know anything about
Yeah.
anybody. So they kind of help me to
Yeah.
go, what's the relevance of this dude with the surfboard? Okay, that's cool. You know?
Well, that's kind of a thing for me now is that I don't like a lot of the new characters they're bringing in, like the Eternals and whatnot.
Mm,
Like, I have no idea who these guys are, so I do want to see the movies when they come out, but I'm
mm,
not really looking into it as much, you
yep.
know.
Yep.
So it kind of helps me avoid spoilers. But with Mandalorian, season I started, I got my Disney Plus when season 2 aired,
Right.
when it launched,
Yep.
because I didn't want to get spoilers. Like I already knew everything that already happened in season 1 before seeing
Oh,
it,
poop.
and I didn't, yeah, exactly. I didn't want to get ruined for season 2.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically how I got into Disney Plus. And
Mm.
then they started coming out with all the Marvel TV shows like WandaVision,
That was so
um,
good.
yeah, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which
Yep.
was another great one,
Yep.
and they have Loki coming out in I think about 2 weeks. So
Yeah. Yeah. Can't wait for that too. That's probably the one. Winter Soldier, I was like, yeah, it's kind of cool, but it felt kind of like a Marvel, like an action film more so and stuff.
yeah,
One division I thoroughly enjoyed. Just that it's just such a different, like how each week was a different sort of era of
yeah,
TV, and just it was really great as an artistic kind of like movie TV on screen. It was pretty
all of
rad.
it. I was actually very pleasantly surprised with it. I mean, WandaVision and Captain and Falcon and Winter Soldier, those were both of the shows I was excited to watch them, but not so excited, you know.
Yep. Yep.
But I was very pleasantly surprised with both. They both,
Mm.
I don't know, they took all these characters that I wasn't so crazy about. I'm just like,
Mm.
man, like I want to see more of them now.
It's the world
So that
building.
was exactly,
Yeah, and that's
but it's
Mandalorian did that too. Where we kind of got, the Rise of Skywalker was like, please don't make me not want to hear the word Skywalker because I kind of that's the best of everything as a child was
mhm,
Skywalker, and they kind of tape it out. But then once I brought in Mando, there was that world building. Like it's the original series or the original 9 has a real feeling of like we're all humans and there's the occasional other life form in this galaxy. And the reality
yeah,
is there's a galaxy and the human, let's say, is a life form within the galaxy. And Mandalorian gave you that depth of like, well, I do not want to go to any bar on any outback planet in that galaxy because it just seems dangerous.
exactly. And I never realized it until going back and rewatching the films after seeing The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
But the whole franchise is so Jedi centric.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
don't really, you don't really realize that, but
Yeah.
everything is so focused on the Jedi, and even in the universe, they're I don't want to say they're a small part, but there's so much more to the
Oh,
universe. Like they're
without a doubt, they
like
are a small
like
part.
they're
Yeah.
like they're just one group inside this whole this
Yeah.
whole big thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's crazy.
Yeah.
It was
Especially when
really
you
nice to see.
look at something like the pod racing,
Yeah,
in whatever episode 1 or whatever. It's
episode
like,
one.
and
Yeah,
it's like there's 10 hot rods and they're all run by something different with jelly for head and
exactly.
12 arms. And you're like, whoa, there's some diversity right there. That's pretty rad.
Speaking of the pod racing, it makes me think of an animated movie that I saw not that I've been watching. I watch it like twice a year for the last 6 years. It's
Yep.
called Redline. It's
Oh,
all
right.
hand. Yeah, you should really check it out. It's an anime movie. It's just a single film, no tie-ins to a series or whatever. But it's all hand-drawn animation, and it took
No,
years to make.
beautiful.
And the style of it is just so beautiful. Like they really like it's a weird thing, like how they capture speed and movement and stuff
Mm,
through drawings, right?
mm,
And it has a very much pod racer feel to it in the sense that it takes place way off in the future. There's all different alien races, and like you have these people in old futuristic cars and whatnot with weapons and like 5 wheels or whatever silly things, right? Um, and they all pilot them in different ways. And the main character, he's kind of a purist in the way that he uses like an old Trans Am modified to work in these kind of not pod races, but like way future races with rockets and stuff.
yeah,
But the art style is just beautiful. I'd
yeah.
highly recommend that film.
Yeah, I'm just looking at some images. It's Akira is one of those films that was hand drawn, but he got them to draw in like, I don't know, like 50 something frames per second instead of the sort of 29 or whatever it was for
Yeah,
that region. And he just worked them to the bone, but you get that same perspective of, the cruising down the street and the cityscape, buildings going up either side, going
yeah,
past. There's no jaggy kind of like shift. It's just clean and
it's
smooth.
so
And
smooth.
yeah, and that's hand
I'm
drawing at a high level.
I'm kind of embarrassed to say, but I haven't seen Akira yet. But I need to.
Yeah,
But
I find it a tough watch. It's actually for me super duper depressing. um,
really,
yeah, it's at the end of it. I'm like, yeah, this is probably how it's going to go down. But that's just me,
but but it is kind of a darker. Overall, the themes of the movie are
Yeah,
darker, right?
yeah, they are. And there's funny stuff. Like a lot of the artists went on to work for like, Hanna Barbera, I think, and Looney Tunes, and just did like the Animaniacs, and you're like, whoa, they certainly lifted their spirits.
So does Akira have that kind of dystopian vibe of Ghost in the Shell, for example? I don't know if you've ever watched that.
Yeah, I've watched a little bit, and yeah, I would say it is that similar. I mean, it's not all bad, but there's that. I guess it's a little bit more like sort of Alita Battle Angel,
Okay, yeah, yeah,
where you've got that feeling of like, oh look, there's winners here, but I feel like even the winners are losing
yeah,
kind of stuff. But the
yeah.
animation, the soundtrack's bizarre because it's very sort of like it's not like it's all created. It's very atmospheric. All the music is not just if the bike's moving, there's a certain tone and these sort of moans and hums and stuff. And yeah, but yeah, it's a bit of a solid watch. So give yourself a couple of hours to just kind of like see it to the end. Really
Yeah,
good.
no, I definitely want to.
Yeah. All right. Back
Yeah.
to sorry, I just let us down a whole different track there. But amiibos, they are
Oh, that's fine.
dangerous. Amiibos are
Yeah,
dangerous.
they are dangerous.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
all the collecting stuff. I mean, I honestly miss the days of hard copy players guides because they used to sell the special editions that would come with these amazing, beautiful art books.
yeah,
And for me, like I had mentioned earlier, I was in art school for like 5 years. I started doing communications and animation.
yeah,
So that kind of helped me go down this whole tangent conversation about
yeah,
Akira with
yeah,
you.
yeah, sure.
But I was doing animation for 2 years in film studies, and then I went into fine arts, so the more visual stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just so beautiful seeing all these like the concept drawings and everything for these video games. And it's such a loss that they don't make these anymore.
100%. Yeah. And it's sort of
You know?
it becomes harder with the internet. Like, I'm working through Samus Returns in the 3DS, which is by far it's gotta be almost I mean, I played Zero Mission and loved that as well in the GBA, but this has got to be one of the most rewarding, challenge versus reward ratio equal and gorgeous looking gaming experiences I personally have ever had. And I can just chug away, but if I need to get a little bit of information because I've spent 20 minutes running about down these bloody corridors, getting the shit beat out of me by some stupid thing and hitting this trap every time, I can just jump on the net, find a quick, nugget to get me through there and then back into the gaming. And
For
I
sure.
guess with that now, it's difficult for them to sell a book. Like you hear about people talking about buying the player's hand guide for whichever game, which would kind of walk you all the way through it,
Pretty much.
but give you all the tips and tricks and stuff. So yeah, I recently got the Game Boy collection book from Bitmap Brothers, and I got that feeling of, man, books are so good when you've just got one and it's a real book.
They are. And the funny thing though, you were saying that it basically just walks you through the game, is that it doesn't the way they walk you through the game is oftentimes a little bit like quite different than how you would play. I can't remember his name, but there's somebody on YouTube that played the Pokemon. He definitely played Pokemon Gen 1 and possibly Gen 2, the way the player's guide guides you through the game.
Yeah.
And it's like way different than most people play it. And
Yeah.
like there's things that he completely misses, like some of the TMs and
Yeah.
like, I don't know if you ever played the game, but the
Yeah,
HMs
played a
and
little
stuff.
bit. Yeah, Emerald
you know?
and Leaf Green I've played. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like in Leaf Green, it was the same in the first generation. How you need to get Flash.
Yeah.
To light up those like dark caverns.
Yeah.
I think if you follow the player's guide route, you don't even get that. It just like sends you into this dark cave and
So is it like that's Mount Moon? Like how the heck do you get through there without a source, a
exactly.
light source?
Yeah, you just kind of fumble around for like 10 hours fighting people, and you either die or you make it. And
no, thank you. I'll just get Flash.
No.
It's just the dude over there next to the
really.
bush.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Did you sort of grow up playing much like when you were younger with Game Boys, or was this because you obviously had some consoles, but was it?
I was not sure when Pokemon was released in North America. I mentioned on my post. I was around like 10 years old when I got my Game Boy Color. 1998. They released Pokemon. So I started with the Game Boy Pocket. My parents got it for me for Christmas. And that was kind of my introduction to gaming. So I played Pokemon. Pokemon was mainly my thing until I ended up getting an N64. And then after that, I was Zelda Ocarina of Time, and then Majora's Mask. Those were definitely the ones I was into, especially Majora's Mask. I mean, I'm definitely. Did you ever play any of those ones?
No, I don't. I don't have an N64.
Okay.
I've played Minish Cap on the GBA, which is like in that top 3 of games ever played. It just was so good. And apart from that, I haven't. I've sort of looked at what's the one with the egg on the beach time?
Link's Awakening.
Yeah, Link's Awakening. I kind of poked into that for a bit, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm really in the right mindset to really dive into that. And I did fire up the GameCube. I can't remember the one. You sort of start with the horse running around the village and stuff.
Twilight Princess.
Yeah, and I was like, that's just gorgeous. I need to play a bit of that.
When we were talking earlier about weird games like the Edius, I've always been into these really weird ones. Like if you look at Link's Awakening, Majora's Mask, even Twilight Princess to a degree, like they're pretty weird from the Zelda formula. Like Majora's Mask and Link's Awakening, both of them can be seen as just this weird fever dream the main character's having.
Yeah.
There's this whole debate. I mean, Link's Awakening, I mean, it basically boils down to the whole thing just being a dream.
Yeah.
Like the Windfish's dream that created this island, this whole very Cthulhu almost vibe from Lovecraft.
Yeah.
And then not Link's Awakening, Majora's Mask. That's basically just like Link going through all these stages of grieving and like, did any of this really happen?
Yeah.
So I've always loved those really those weird kind of concepts.
So sliding doors type stuff.
Exactly. Like even now, like with Bloodborne being probably the most recent game I've gotten into with that weird kind of, is this actually going on? These games that kind of question the narrator's accounting of the events. I've always really loved that kind of thing.
And the retelling of a different situation, like or a different sort of possibility. Like when I was much younger, I collected quite a few of Batman graphic novels. Or maybe like a 3-book series. So you would get like and I keep myself. I had some stuff like I had an Alien vs Predator. A Batman vs Predator 3-book series.
Oh wow!
And it was just, you can just imagine it. Like in the first book, it sort of builds up. In the second book, Batman gets his ass handed to him.
I'm sure.
And then he goes back to the cave and Alfred stitches him up and he develops new tech because he's like, this thing's pretty hardcore. I need to throw a bunch of money at it, basically being Batman. But there was all these other ones. Like there was one where he because you get the whole Bruce Wayne, parents killed. Oh my God, so much trauma. How do I harness this? And there's one where his parents died and he's like he's Batman, but as they tell the backstory, and his garb is almost a bit like the church. There was sort of this symbology of crosses, and it turns, and he is actually, his parents were like medical doctors that were kind of working for the church because the church ran the world. And this is like fairly
Okay.
modern day, but his parents were working in underground medical facilities to help the poor. And they were assassinated by the church. And as Bruce grew up, he was a member of the church and like a high priest. And so when he discovered this information,
But not knowing all this.
not knowing, and when he discovered
Right.
that the church had murdered his parents because they were doing the right thing anyway, he turned.
Okay.
So his Batman garb took on that kind of like, I'm still a priest, but
Right.
I've run out of bubble gum kind of thing, you know. Really, really great. So there's that sliding doors in games where it's like, what if they went down this, or what if they did that? And that's what sort of draws me to Link to the Past, is that
Yeah.
that sliding doors.
I like you were saying about these other alternate universes. You were making me think of the Flashpoint series. That's actually the
Yeah.
what I thought you were going down. Like where in that timeline it's Bruce that dies and his parents stay alive, and his
Yep.
mother becomes the Joker and his father becomes Batman.
Oh my goodness.
Right? So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
this, you know, like his mom just has this mental break and turns into the Joker, and
Yeah.
the father being a grown man at this time whose son dies,
Yeah.
he just has a significantly more brutal and aggressive approach than Bruce Wayne ever did.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
He's very like, you know, you killed my son. He goes on kind of a John Wick style
Good stuff.
you know.
Yeah. Oh, body count. Yeah. And it also that leads me into, I guess we're talking a little bit about Marvel and Loki. And all the discussion at the moment is, so with Loki, where and when are we going to be with Loki? Because we've watched him slide in and out as he's kind of just tripped around, and what's the Loki we're going to see? Because in the beginning you're like, someone punched this dude in the nuts, and by the end of it you're like, we could redo with a guy like him on the team.
But see, that's the thing, is that the Loki, like, am I allowed to talk about spoilers about? I mean, these movies have been out for a few years now. We can talk spoilers, right?
Oh, if it's like all the Marvel stuff, the 26 movies they made, of course.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like in the Endgame movies there, I don't remember what the two of them are called, but in Infinity Wars, I think it is the first of the two, you see Loki die, right?
Yeah.
And then in the second one, where they're going back in time to find all the stones, you see Loki from the first Avengers movie era.
When he grabs the case and kind of walks off.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So that's the one that's supposed to be in the show. So it's still the asshole Loki that you're not so keen on, right? This is before like Thor: The Dark World, where they kind of start bonding, and then in Ragnarok, where he's actually a good guy, you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's going to be
with the
it's going to be interesting for sure. It's going to be interesting for sure to see where they take that.
Yeah, and even if you watch the trailers to that, you see that it's taking place in all different times throughout human history. Like you see the fall of Pompeii, so it's kind of weird to see what his role is going to be. Really curious for that.
Yeah, going to be awesome.
Yeah, so I see behind you. You have quite a lot of Star Wars going on.
Yeah, amongst other stuff, I do have a lot of Star Wars. I have a thing for droids. A lot of
That's not Power Rangers up in the top left, is it? Or you're right?
No, there's a couple of there's a red stormtrooper and a black one from like.
Oh, okay, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's the big kind of 12-inch kind of like toy ones that I picked up.
Nice.
I've got a lot of Star Wars. I've got a couple of droids, and I've got a nice big fat lightsaber. A few years ago, we were in the US, we were in California for a month, and we went to Disneyland, and we did the whole build the lightsaber thing, and I did it.
That's a thing.
Yeah, it is a thing. It's not a cheap thing. It's like $230. But it's you go right into this kind of room with about 12 other people with 2 guests, and it's kind of like you get the whole like, you know, we can't let the Imperium know about it, and you kind of go in, it's the show, and there's voices and there's lighting and there's really good character acting, and you get a selection of possibilities to make your own. You know, it's sort of like there's probably about 15 different variations you can come away with. And I did mine, and like I said before, and when I had my lightsaber and I lit it up, I cried. And then my wife was a bit like, this is going to be stupid. Kind of, she's cool, but she's also like, I ain't been no nerd. And when we walked out, she was like, that was pretty rad. And my 9-year-old daughter's like, I gotta do it, because she was a bit on the fence. And so we got to go back the next day and do it again. And again, when my daughter did it, I cried. Like, it's just, I just love a good show. I love it when the effort's put in, and I get emotionally kind of aroused is a bit rough, but emotionally, like I'm given more than just here's a thing, you paid for it, have a nice day.
Yeah, no,
It totally works.
they make it worth your time, right?
They do make it worth your time, which is worth much more than the $230 it cost me.
No, because I mean, like as cool as the saber is, right? You can buy them online, but this one you made yourself. You saw the show, you went through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna see that and remember the memories of it.
Absolutely, really great. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff up there. We did the droid factory thing where you build your droids and all that sort of stuff. So if you're a Star Wars,
is it like a Build-A-Bear but for droids?
Yeah, I guess if you look at any videos on YouTube, it's sort of like you walk in, it's all really well done out, but it's kind of like this conveyor belt of just random bits of droids, different colors and shapes. And you kind of get like a little basket and you kind of pick your colors and stuff, and then you snap it all together. You take it to this little station and you snap it together. And then the assistant, it's all like as if you're in some weird droid building, kind of like 7-Eleven, but in the Star Wars universe. And you put it down in this little base, and the chick comes over, or the dude or whatever, and he's like, okay, we're going to activate your droid. And it makes its first noises and makes its first light flash, and you're like, oh my God, it's alive. My droid's alive. So it's really great. And again, I was like, oh God, don't cry. You've cried so much in the last 2 days. Come on. It's just
man.
Just doing that like thing that as a 12-year-old kid, I was like, man, wouldn't it be so good if you could build your own lightsaber and build your own droid? And now,
so you were 12 years old doing that?
No,
or no, you were an adult. Okay,
yeah. And now at 45, finally, we're here. I've got the money. They've got the technology. I'm building lightsabers and droids. So good.
So when the first movies came out, you were around like 12 years old then?
Well, I was born in 73, so I think 70. Probably Empire Strikes Back. I saw at the drive-in movies at around about the age of, I want to say 7 or 8, maybe 9.
Okay.
And then Return of the Jedi I would have seen at the cinemas, but I don't recall. I may not. I may have seen it on VHS.
It's kind of funny hearing you say that, because my brother is a few years older than you, and I was like the age you were when they came out. That's the age I was when the second wave of movies came out.
Yeah,
the episode 1, 2, and 3. So my brother, who grew up on these things and loved them, he was like, "Hey man, like you got to get into these," and like he would always take me to the theater to see them and stuff.
Nice, yeah.
So and now that I have a niece, she's kind of growing up with that third wave of movies.
Yeah, and
like with Rey and Kylo Ren and all them.
Yeah, and I think if you have someone like that, a junior, to share those last 3 with, they're not as they've got so much hate. And I'm like, yeah, it's not the same. But I watched them with the 3 with my daughter. And by the time the third one come, there were significant moments that we shared because of her perception,
right?
Not mine. And sometimes you have to step outside that. And it's the same with sort of games and Game Boys, and within the community, it's like, yeah, that's not for me, but I can understand, and you can kind of feed off other people. So, it's nice to try.
There's that nostalgia.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there was things I was like, no, I don't know if that's how I would have done it. But you know what? I'm not a billion-dollar director either, with the pressures of a production studio and a corporation conglomerate saying, got to sell the popcorn, buddy. So it's tough.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, we've kind of gone down every other track except Game Boys, but that's what I love about
it's
this.
True, eh?
That's what I love about this, is you can come together, find something in common, but actually you've got a whole bunch of other stuff in common. And I think you and I have a bunch of fellow modders in the community in common. So I'm going to kick it off with every episode I try and highlight someone I think's pretty great. Now I hope I pronounced it right, but Nintendaz. Nintenaz. This fella has got some of the, I want to say, classiest Game Boy handheld retro gaming photography on Instagram. It's just the lens, the filters he's using, and just the way he's doing it. This is kind of real retro, but you can tell this is a recent sort of love for these things as well. So I would highly encourage everybody. Nintendaz. This is all in the show notes. Nintenaz. Thank you, mate, because what you do is really, really great. Really, really beautiful stuff. Some of them, like, there's a couple of black and whites in there, and I'm like, man, this looks like an ad for a Mercedes, or something like that.
No, they really are very nice photos.
And he owns an N-Gage, and that's something I need to talk to someone about, because that's just such a ridiculous device that it's no wonder it didn't make it, but holy cow, someone gave it a shot, and it's pretty rad.
What is it?
It's if you're looking at his stuff, it's about his fourth last post, the N-Gage. It was a phone made by Nokia.
Oh, the Nokia thing.
Yeah, but it was a
yeah.
handheld console that kind of has a bit of a following, and it's just a
I
little bit
remember those.
bonkers.
I never had one, but yeah.
Oh man, people picked them up at like, EB Games for like $30 when they were selling them all out, and like, man,
Jesus.
you would not get one for $30 now. And
No,
the
definitely not.
library's becoming really hectic. So yeah, that's mine for the week, along with Spaceport Interactive and iz.ma regarding Didios. So yeah, your turn, mate. Let's hear who you love and what's going down in your sort of field of vision.
Cool. Well, I'll shout out Idlehandmodding, who is my second account, which has become kind of a joke in the community because people are always like, "Hey, so Idlehandmodding and Idlehand, like, are you guys the same account?"
Yeah.
No, we're
No.
not the same account. We're not related, but the guy's super cool. He's honestly one of my best
He's
friends.
Trey. He's Rob. That's how it works.
Yeah, we look nothing alike. I mean, you've seen him now, so you know we don't look alike.
Yeah, that's right.
Super cool guy, honestly. He's one of my best friends. Probably one of the first people I've actually started talking to in this community. Just super cool guy. I mean, go listen to his podcast. Yeah. And
he's got the good label action going on.
Yeah, he definitely does. And so many people that you've already done podcasts with, I'm not going to shout them out because I mean, this encourages people to go listen to the other podcasts. But there's so many cool people that you've already spoken with that I'm, in contact with. Natalie, Tyler, Kelly, David, Nara, Anthony, Mike, so many cool people.
Yeah.
And then also Kanpai Customs. He's a super cool guy, and honestly part of the reasons why I even got into painting shells, because he does a lot of his painting, or almost all of his painting, internally. Before that I was thinking like, man, like if I'm going to paint the outside of a shell, it's going to feel weird and gummy, and like I don't want to do that. And then I saw him doing them internally, and that kind of just set me off, and I was like, okay, this is the way, like this is how I'm gonna mod my consoles. So super cool guy, definitely go check him out. There's also Pixel Juice, super cool guy. All these people, just really, like, I can't say enough good things about them. Just go check them out, throw some love on them, get them on the show. So Idlehandmodding, Kanpai, Pixel Juice, Retrovise, Retro Avocado, Technical Apricot, Neo Customs, Techie Zero Retro, and Absolute Zero Drifting. These are all people you should definitely check out. All super cool people.
Yep, those other names that you just mentioned by actual human name, I'll link those guys in there too, guys and girls.
Yeah, exactly.
What was
the nerd? Absolute, please, Pig City.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Absolute Zero Drifting, because I asked you before, like, is this a Switch thing? And you were like, no, not at all. What's the go there?
Yeah, well, this guy, he's a graphic design student, if I'm not mistaken, and he does some really cool stuff. He designed, basically, I don't know if you remember back in the day with like those old big clunky things you'd attach onto a DMG, or even I had one for the SP, basically just to make it bigger so that, for adults to use them so that they actually fit your hands properly.
Right.
So for the Game Boy Micro, he actually designed a 3D printable grip so that you can attach it onto the Micro and actually make it a proper size for adult hands.
Yeah, right.
So he's not big into the modding scene the way you would traditionally think, but the guy does really cool stuff. So I mean, definitely give it a look. This thing is a free to use design. You could print it out and use it yourself.
Yeah.
So definitely give this guy check out this guy's work.
Yeah, sure. And sometimes when you give someone a little bit of attention, all of a sudden they go, "Oh, well, I've got all this as well. Did you want to see this too?"
Yeah.
So
well, exactly, right?
Yeah.
Like more obscure people, and these little gems hidden in the community, as soon as you shine a little bit of light on them, they just flourish and boom. So there's so many people like that. So that's why I didn't want to go down the typical path of highlighting all, like, I've been doing my homework listening to your podcasts, and you kind of see the same names coming up a lot. So that's why I'm just like, listen to the other podcasts, check out those people, and check out the people they talk about.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. That's great. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've I think we've covered a lot of bases, and I really, I know it's been a while, and I actually sort of screwed up our scheduling today, and you were
Oh well, yeah.
super kind enough to be flexible and race home and get this done. So that's great, mate. I hope I didn't ruin your
Oh,
Saturday,
don't
Arvo.
worry about that.
Mm.
And I mean, I guess to explain for listeners, because you told me the 30th, which is actually today for you, but tomorrow for me. So
Yeah, yeah. And this is the
yeah,
challenge of often if I'm chatting with someone, I'm at work and I'm actually supposed to be doing my job, and I'm looking at dates and is this person behind and is this person ahead? And it's just it's all part of the fun
yeah.
of
So don't worry about that. And
listen.
I actually wasn't so far away. I was just over at my parents' house
Mm.
doing some painting, and I was in the middle of eating spaghetti, and I was
Oh,
like, damn it.
I
I was
feel
like,
like you
damn
were
it,
having
mom,
a
I've got
yeah, I feel like you're having
what?
a really great day painting eating spaghetti. I mean, you're living the dream.
Nah, really, man. And I was like, damn it, mom, I gotta leave. And she's like, no, you're finishing your spaghetti first. At 31 years old, like
Good stuff.
mom mom's still making sure you're well fed. So
That's
ate my
good.
spaghetti as fast as I could and rushed
That's
over
good.
here, and here we are, man.
Here we are. All right. Well, look,
Yeah, so it's all good.
I really do appreciate your time. You and I are in touch offline regularly.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to sort of squeeze a shell out of you, and like everybody else, that I try to squeeze shells out of, and I'm trying to cover all the costs and reward people, and they're also like, look, I want to do it, but I just need to do it at my pace because I'm an artist. I cannot work under these conditions, and I 100% appreciate it, and I'd much rather it come from the heart. So
Yeah.
we'll get
Well,
that.
that's what I was saying earlier, like with the whole commissions and stuff. Now it's like I'd rather just do it for fun and find a good home for my shells.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's
I
where we're at.
I really love getting things from different parts of the world. Like this week, I've had a couple of people send me some great stuff. Had Nintendo Hawaii send me one of the Pokemon Pink versions. And like, I'm not a big player, but I just to see this has been someone's a focus of attention. And Zach Pixel Juice sent me a bunch of stickers. It's like there's a letter, and it's like, hey, from Oregon, and I'm like, the world is out there. It actually
It is
is.
out there.
It is out there, and it's very easy to get boxed in, especially in the current sort of climate and situation, to get boxed in and think, "I'm just me. I'm just here, and I'm not getting these likes." And I kind of don't really care, but for some people, it's important because that's the source of their daily kind of reflection of who they are or what they're doing. But it is nice when you get something from someone from another part of the planet and you're
Yeah.
like, the world is actually out there, and stay tall, stand tall, stay strong, and it'll all go back to normal. And
Oh,
I
for sure.
hung out with a couple of local people yesterday, playing some retro games, Nostech, custom handhelds, Mike, and Baron Prizeman, and it was like to be with humans playing retro games. We played some Mega Drive instead. It was so good. It was kind of hard work because I'm a bit of an introvert. So 3.5, 4 hours of gaming and being with humans was like, whew, I need a nap. But
Especially after last year where we're all isolated and
exactly
separate from
right.
everyone.
Exactly right. So if you're
But
going to go there, just ease out and just do what you can. And yeah, people are great.
but on that note, though, it's something this community's made me realize is that as big as the world is, it's so small. Like
Yeah.
I'm talking to you in Australia.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
was kind of taking inventory of where all my projects have ended up in the world.
Yeah.
I have some in Northern Ireland, some in Spain,
Yeah.
some in Dubai,
Yeah.
Morocco,
Yeah.
handful of the US and Canada.
That's
Like
groovy.
things I've made have ended up all over the world, and I find that so amazing that I never would have considered this happen a year ago.
Yeah, I agree.
You
And
know?
even like looking at the podcast, I was looking just this morning at sort of some of the analytics, and some of the countries that are listening, and there's a few big ones that are like Australia, the UK, and the US. But I've also got, like, when I look at this, it's sort of moves down through Canada and Morocco, Sweden, Thailand. I'm assuming that's anti. There's a lot of less than 1%ers. Switzerland, Saudi Arabia, Belgium, Netherlands, Austria, France, Italy, Albania, Spain, Jersey, Qatar, and India. And I'm like,
Crazy, right?
that is insane to think that there are people out there that appreciate what we're talking about and have at least given it a listen and thought, hey, that's kind of cool. So for those people, thank you. And I hope that you're getting as much fun out of this as all of us are.
Yeah. We
Mm.
definitely need some more Indian and Albanian modders in the scene. I would really love to see.
Yeah,
No, but
yeah,
really though, like
yeah.
look at Retro Avocado. He's located in Morocco, and if you see his photos, they have a very distinctive vibe, like with his backdrops of what he's choosing. It's all
Yeah.
stuff that you don't
Yeah.
really see in Morocco.
Yeah.
So that's what I think is amazing about having modders all over the world, is that they look at Fleet Mods, for example. He takes photos with backdrops. You see these like castle towers and stuff like that. Like you're not
Yeah.
going to see that in Canada or
No.
Australia even.
Yeah, that's right. And we've got Game Boys in the Wild, he's in Colorado, and
Yeah,
it's like you get to see this mountain range, and you get to see
exactly.
two things you like: a beautiful scenario and a Game Boy. Like, what's
Yeah.
just throw a bowl of spaghetti in that picture, and like you're in heaven, right?
Pretty much.
All right, buddy. I'm going to let you go. I really do appreciate you coming on. I know
Yeah,
everybody
thanks
loves
for
to
having
hear
me,
from
man.
everybody, and yeah, you and I will be in communication offline.
For
And
sure.
yeah, cool. All right, Rob. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody else, for listening, and you'll hear from us next time. Bye.
All right, take care, man.